A lot of us are familiar with many cartoon animals like Tom and Jerry, Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse, and many more. A cat, a mouse, a duck, and there's Woody Woodpecker. These are fictional animals with massive global fame. But the idea of famous animals isn't just limited to fictional ones. There are real animals known by name to millions of people around the world. Each of these animals has a unique story that made them famous. Welcome, I'm Ahmed Mahmoud. But before we start, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get our videos as soon as they're released. On July 5th, 1996, newspapers around the world talked about how Dolly the sheep became the first mammal to be successfully cloned. At the time, this sparked a huge global debate. Cloning, in simple terms, is when a living organism is created with the exact same genetic material as another, the same genes, traits, appearance, color, everything, an exact replica. Over the years, biologists tried cloning multiple times, and in 1996, they took a cell from a sheep, froze it, and kept it in a lab. After the sheep died, they implanted that cell into an egg after removing its original DNA. Then, they stimulated it with electricity, placed it in the womb of another sheep, and let it grow naturally. Eventually, a new sheep was born, which they named Dolly. She looked exactly like the sheep that had died years earlier. Of course, it was all just genetic engineering, but it raised many concerns among researchers and even ordinary people. There was fear that this technology could be used unethically or immorally. Questions like, will they clone humans next? Started to surface. Dolly's story became known worldwide, but she died on February 14, 2003, due to progressive lung disease and arthritis that left her unable to walk in her last days. She was only 6 years old, even though sheep like her typically live twice as long. Her early death only added to her fame, as people began to wonder, were these diseases caused by cloning and genetic manipulation, or was it just a coincidence? In the end, Dolly's body was preserved and is now on display at the National Museum of Scotland. On November 3, 1957, Leica the Dog became the first animal to go on a space mission, aboard the Soviet spacecraft Sputnik 2. During the Cold War between the Soviet Union and America, very little was known about the effects of space travel on humans or living creatures in general. That's why the Soviets decided to send animals on space missions and observe what would happen to them. While planning a mission to orbit the Earth's outer atmosphere, they needed an animal to place inside the spacecraft, and they chose Laika. The crazy thing is Laika, who caused a global sensation and went to space, was originally a stray dog from the streets of Moscow. They didn't choose a trained or house-raised dog. The reason? The doctors said that street dogs could withstand higher temperatures better than house-raised ones. Plus, they could endure hunger and thirst more easily. So, a dog like that was the perfect candidate for a space mission. After the launch of Sputnik 2, Laika gained worldwide fame, especially since this mission paved the way for the Soviet Union to send the first human into space 4 years later. Until 2002, it wasn't known exactly what happened to Laika during the mission. But that year, some documents were released, revealing that Laika died during the mission due to a sudden increase in temperature inside the spacecraft. In 2008, a memorial was built for Laika in Moscow near a military facility, and it's still there today. Of course, the Americans weren't going to let the space race for animals slip through their fingers. They had to add their touch and make their mark. The American response to Laika's mission was the mission of Harambe the chimpanzee. When America was planning the mission, they had 40 chimpanzees in the running, but in the end, they chose Harambe as the best candidate. On January 1, 1961, they sent him on a space mission aboard the Mercury Redstone 2 spacecraft, making him the second creature to go into outer space. Ham's mission was a big success, especially since the Americans managed to bring him back to Earth safely. This gave them a chance to highlight their achievement even more in the media. They took advantage of the opportunity and boasted a lot, saying, "Yes, the Soviets sent an animal before us, but the reason we took our time was to ensure safety so we could bring the animal back safely." What made the whole thing even more impressive was that they had cameras inside the spacecraft, filming Ham as he performed simple tasks he was trained for, like moving a specific part or signaling a light. This was different from Laika, who remained in one spot throughout her entire mission. Less than 4 months after this mission, the Americans were able to send Alan Shepard as the first American astronaut into space. And of course, that was a huge victory for America. The gap between the first Soviet animal in space and the first Soviet human was 4 years. But for the Americans, it was only 4 months. In the end, Ham was transferred to the National Zoo in North Carolina, where he lived the rest of his life like royalty. People from all over would visit him and take pictures with him. He lived there normally until he died 22 years after his historic flight. Now, leaving behind the thousands of experiments, space missions, and all that, one of the most famous animals in modern times was a gorilla who lived a normal life in a zoo, but a tragic incident involving him caused a huge controversy. This was Harambe, the famous gorilla. Harambe's story began when he was a 17-year-old male gorilla living at the Cincinnati Zoo in the United States. On May 28, 2016, a 3-year-old boy was visiting the zoo with his parents. In a split second, while his parents were distracted, the child fell about 15 feet into the gorilla enclosure, where 3 gorillas, including Harambe, were present. As soon as the child fell and people noticed, the zookeepers signaled the gorillas to move into their holding areas. The 2 females complied, but Harambe didn't listen. He ran towards the child to check out what had fallen into his enclosure. When he saw the child, he started behaving strangely and unpredictably. Sometimes he would gently pat the child and adjust his clothes, but then he'd drag him by the leg and run quickly. At other times, he'd adjust the child's clothes again, and then he'd splash a lot of water on him. No one could understand if he was happy with the child or wanted to harm him. After quickly assessing the situation, the authorities decided the best solution was to shoot Harambe because using a tranquilizer wasn't an option. It would take around 15 minutes to work, and it might agitate the gorilla further, endangering the child's life. So, one of the zookeepers shot Harambe, saving the child, who was taken to the hospital and treated for his injuries. But of course, the story didn't end there. One of the people present at the zoo filmed the incident and uploaded it to YouTube, and part of the video is still available today. From the moment the video was uploaded, the world erupted in debate, and Harambe's case became a public issue. Harambe's fame grew tremendously, with many people sympathizing with him and blaming the neglectful parents, calling it a crime against Harambe, an innocent creature. Many also criticized the zoo's safety standards, leading to numerous protests where people held signs saying, "Rest in peace." Yet there were still many who believed the zookeepers did the right thing, even if it was a tough decision. All the animals we've talked about did something in their lives that made them famous. But this one? He didn't do anything at all. No achievements, no disasters, nothing. All that happened was that in 2012, Grumpy Cat woke up one day and found himself the most famous cat in the world. Grumpy Cat, an American feline known for his perpetually grumpy expression, became an internet meme and probably the most famous animal on this list. The truth is, his grumpy look wasn't due to him being grumpy. It was because of a rare condition called feline dwarfism, which causes abnormal bone growth and enlarged joints. This condition gave Grumpy Cat his distinctive look. His rise to fame began with a photo posted on September 22, 2012, and from there, the internet exploded. You couldn't find anyone on social media who didn't know him. All the American talk shows were scrambling to feature him live. He even had his own company managing his media appearances. And we're talking about a real company. In 2018, they won a lawsuit worth $71,000 against another company that used Grumpy Cat's image without permission. Grumpy Cat passed away early on May 14, 2019, and that only added to his fame, with many people now considering him the most famous cat in the world, second only to Tom from Tom and Jerry. And that's it for now. Who made it this far? To everyone who did, you're the best. Go ahead and give us a like before you leave so we know how many of you made it to the end. And don't forget, if you have any episode suggestions, drop them in the comments. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.